In the sprawling suburbs of Westfield, Indiana, during the late 1980s and early 1990s, the name Herb Baumeister evoked an image of quintessential American success. He was a prominent businessman, the founder of the thriving Save-A-Lot chain of thrift stores, a familiar and respected face in the community. To outsiders and even to many who knew him, Herbert Richard Baumeister was a dedicated family man, a husband, a father of three, living with his wife Juliana, on an idyllic, sprawling 18-acre estate known as Fox Hollow Farm. Its lush woods and secluded nature seemed to promise privacy and peace, a perfect haven for a prosperous family. He was known for his conservative values, his entrepreneurial spirit, and his seemingly normal suburban life. Yet beneath this carefully constructed facade of normalcy and affluence, a truly monstrous secret festered, a darkness so profound it would eventually horrify the entire nation. Born in Indianapolis in 1947, Herb Baumeister was the eldest of 4 children to an anesthesiologist father and a seemingly conventional mother. His childhood on the surface appeared unremarkable. However, as adolescence set in, disturbing eccentricities began to emerge. Whispers circulated among peers about his fascination with morbid subjects and his increasingly bizarre behavior. Stories of him playing with dead animals, or even more unsettling, urinating on a teacher's desk, painted a picture far removed from the polite businessman he would become. These unsettling tendencies were not ignored. In his teens, Baumeister underwent mental examinations and was reportedly diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and antisocial personality disorder. Yet despite these alarming assessments, no consistent psychiatric treatment followed. He drifted through various jobs exhibiting a peculiar blend of strong work ethic and unpredictable, often volatile outbursts. The foundation of a deeply troubled individual was quietly laid, unseen by most. In November 1971, Herb Baumeister married Juliana Sater. From the outside, it was a traditional union that would eventually bring 3 children into the world. Yet the marriage itself held a dark, unspoken truth. Juliana later revealed a shocking lack of intimacy, stating they were only sexually intimate a handful of times in over 2 decades. Just 6 months into their marriage, Baumeister's father had him committed to a psychiatric hospital for 2 months. A desperate act stemming from unexplained distress. Following this, Herb found his niche in retail, founding the Save-A-Lot thrift store chain in 1988, which quickly became a success. This outward triumph, however, masked a terrifying double life. While his wife and children were often away on weekends, Herb frequented gay bars in Indianapolis, preying on vulnerable men. Under the assumed name Brian Smart, he would lure these men back to his secluded Fox Hollow Farm, a place where their lives would brutally end. Throughout the early 1990s, a disturbing pattern began to emerge in central Indiana. Young gay men were vanishing. Reports of missing persons piled up, largely unnoticed by mainstream media, dismissed often as runaways or lifestyle choices. But within the LGBTQ+ community, fear quietly mounted. They knew something sinister was afoot. Some men who encountered Brian Smart at bars were lucky enough to escape his clutches, later describing terrifying encounters where their lives were threatened. One such survivor provided a crucial piece of information, a license plate number. But it would take time for investigators to connect it to the successful businessman. Meanwhile, the dark secret of Fox Hollow Farm was beginning to literally surface. In 1994, Baumeister's teenage son, playing in the vast, wooded backyard, stumbled upon a human skull. When confronted, Baumeister calmly dismissed it as a skeleton from his father's medical practice, a macabre relic he claimed he'd buried. He even reburied it, further burying the horrifying truth. Despite the outward appearance of stability, the marriage of Herb and Juliana Baumeister was deteriorating rapidly. Juliana grew increasingly alarmed by her husband's erratic behavior, severe mood swings, and prolonged absences. The once charming and successful man was now a volatile presence prone to unpredictable rages. By 1996, her fear outweighed her loyalty, and she filed for divorce. It was during these fraught proceedings that the pieces finally began to click into place for her. Haunted by her son's grim discovery and her husband's increasingly bizarre conduct, Juliana made a courageous and agonizing decision. She granted police permission to search Fox Hollow Farm. This pivotal moment occurred while Herb was conveniently on vacation in Canada, ostensibly to visit family. Little did he know, the idyllic facade of his personal hell was about to crumble. What investigators uncovered at Fox Hollow Farm was beyond comprehension. The vast wooded acreage that had once seemed so peaceful now revealed itself as a mass grave. As forensic teams meticulously sifted through the soil, they unearthed thousands upon thousands of charred and crushed human bone fragments. It quickly became apparent that Herb Baumeister had not just murdered a few men, he had systematically killed and dismembered many, attempting to destroy their remains with fire and burying what was left across his property. As the horrific discoveries at Fox Hollow Farm dominated headlines, Herb Baumeister, still in Canada, understood that his carefully constructed world had collapsed. A warrant was issued for his arrest. With investigators closing in, he fled deeper into Ontario's Pinery Provincial Park. On July 3, 1996, Baumeister was found dead in the park, having committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. In his suicide note, he rambled about his failing marriage and business, but conspicuously he made no mention, no confession, of the gruesome discoveries on his property. His death left a profound silence, taking with him the full extent of his motives and the precise number of his victims. The truth in its entirety remained agonizingly just out of reach, buried with the killer himself. In the years following Baumeister's death, forensic scientists painstakingly worked to identify the remains recovered from Fox Hollow Farm. Through DNA analysis, 8 of the 11 men found were eventually identified: Michael Kieran, Douglas West, Charles Smith, Richard Hamilton, Manuel Rezende, Johnny Bayer, Jeffrey Allen Jones, and Alan Wayne Broussard. These were men who had vanished, often from Indianapolis gay bars, their disappearances previously met with little attention. Yet the horror did not end there. Investigators believe that Baumeister was responsible for the deaths of at least a dozen more men, whose bodies were found along the Interstate 70 corridor in Indiana and Ohio, leading him to be strongly suspected as the infamous I-70 Strangler. These additional victims, often strangled, matched Baumeister's modus operandi, and their disappearances ceased after he acquired Fox Hollow Farm. The scale of his potential crimes grew exponentially, extending his reign of terror far beyond his property. The case of Herb Baumeister remains one of Indiana's most disturbing true crime stories, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath a veneer of respectability. He was a man who lived a meticulously crafted double life, a successful businessman and family man by day, and a predatory serial killer by night. Even after his suicide, the full truth of his depravity continues to unfold, with new remains still being identified decades later. For the families of his confirmed victims and those still hoping for answers regarding the I-70 Strangler, the memory of Herb Baumeister is forever stained with the brutal horror of Fox Hollow Farm. His legacy is one of betrayal, unimaginable cruelty, and the devastating impact of a wolf hiding in plain sight.